Please don't hate me for what I'm about to say. You know what we don't talk enough about? Paddington Bear is kind of a propaganda icon. Now, before you clutch your honorary marmalade sandwich, please hear me out. This is not an attack on Paddington. This is an exploration of how a fictional bear in a duffel coat has become Britain's unofficial spokesbear for everything from immigration to multiculturalism and what that really says about us. But before I get into it, please subscribe if you like these kinds of conversations. I mean, Paddington Bear, he's adorable. The duffel coat, the hard stares, the obsessive devotion to marmalade, which honestly borders on addiction. But lately, Paddington's being kind of paraded around as a symbol for modern Britain, especially post Brexit and post Windrush scandal. He's become our national emotional support animal. I was reflecting on this as I was walking towards Waterloo Station recently, and I'm sure you've seen the psychedelic style mural just a short walk from the South Bank. Now, on this mural, we see Paddington Bear in front of a backdrop of London with a quote from Mrs. Brown saying, "In London, everyone is different, and that means that anyone can fit in." Oh, which sounds so lovely, so inclusive, so Great British Bake Off meets TED Talk. But let's pause, because we've quietly skipped a rather major detail. Paddington is often held up as a symbol of Britain's compassion, our imaginary patron saint of refugees, if you will. But here's the irony. Paddington didn't show up a stranger to Britishness. He arrived already indoctrinated into it. His Aunt Lucy raised him on stories of the British Empire, taught him English manners, and sent him to London with a suitcase, a duffel coat, and a thoroughly colonial notion of what it means to be civilized. He didn't come to Britain to learn how to be British. He came because he already believed in it. And that's what makes Paddington such a quietly provocative and peculiar symbol for Britain, for modern multiculturalism. He isn't the story of an outsider assimilating. He's the story of someone who already internalized the imperial mythos, arriving in Britain not to change it, but to remind it of who it once promised to be. So, in a way, Paddington's polite, orderly, marmalade covered optimism is less of an immigrant narrative and more of a mirror held up to a Britain that's arguably lost its own script. He doesn't challenge Britishness, he embodies it, possibly better than the British themselves. And he reminds us of the values that we've lost. So, when we slap his face on a mural and caption it with "anyone can fit in," we really should pause. Because the version of fitting in that Paddington represents isn't messy or complicated, it's oddly nostalgic, it's imperial even. It's a relic of the values that he was trained in before he ever stepped foot on British soil. In short, Paddington didn't become British. He came believing in a Britain that may never have existed. And Paddington wasn't searching for an identity, he already had one, a colonial one, arguably, but it was shaped by the moral teachings of an imagined Britain. So when he finally arrives at Paddington Station, he's not being assimilated. He's reminding us of who we're supposed to be. He holds up a mirror to a Britain that's forgotten its own values. And this is where it gets uncomfortable. Because Paddington is fictional. But we started to use him as a very real mouthpiece for very messy conversations about immigration, multiculturalism, and who really belongs. So, here's my question for you. Is it enough to arrive somewhere? Or do you have to truly believe in it to belong? Because love for a country, real love, not just "it has good NHS dentistry and better weather than where I came from" kind of love, real love comes with some emotional baggage. And maybe Paddington was a better immigrant because he just wasn't looking for safety. He was looking for a home. Paddington didn't just stumble into Britain looking for shelter. He came because he already believed in it. Not for the benefits or for the safety net, but for the idea of Britain. The decency, the courtesy, the quiet, awkward dignity of standing in a line and saying sorry when someone else bumps into you. He arrived not as a blank slate, but as someone already shaped by British ideals, taught to him abroad by a colonial British explorer, no less. In other words, Paddington came ready to be British, not just in manners, but in mindset. And maybe that's the real fantasy that Britain's clinging to. Not the idea that anyone can fit in, but that everyone who arrives will want to. That they'll already share our values, that they'll already believe in our institutions, they'll respect our norms, love our customs, and slot themselves in seamlessly, quietly, and politely. But modern immigration doesn't always match that story. There are asylum seekers fleeing danger, yes. But there are also economic migrants who arrive with no particular respect for the country that they've come to, who isolate, who resist integration, or worse, they openly reject the nation that gave them refuge. And so we hold up Paddington not because he represents what's happening, but because he represents what we wish was happening. He's the ideal, not just of a refugee, but of a grateful guest, a good immigrant, the bearer of British dreams. And if that's the kind of immigrant that we can only imagine in fiction, then what does that say about the very real conversations that we're not having? So, if you like this video, please give it a like, subscribe if it made you think differently, and let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks.